Two bros chilling in the hot tub, 5 feet apart cause they're not gay.
What's good, people? Agent Jules reporting for duty. With the arrival of Last Airbender on Netflix, it was only natural for Legend of Korra to also be released on Netflix. So, I believe it's time to talk about Legend of Korra, but I want to talk about its strange construction. So without further ado, let us go ahead and once again buckle into our favorite universe where we can bend elements that are hyper-lethal yet somehow don't really kill people unless it's convenient. Let us go ahead and romp around on our hybrid animal, go around a city and wreck up the place in the name of justice, but in reality we're just dealing out vigilante property destruction. And let's of course include in that property destruction destroying that like button. And let's go ahead and talk Legend of Korra. So, as per usual, let's go ahead and discuss the speed paint I'm making. It is a Vine reference. For those of you who are not privy to internet culture, there's this famous video, which I will invariably show at the beginning of this video, so you probably already saw it, of the two dudes chilling in a hot tub 5 feet apart because they're not gay. And so I decided, hey, that's kind of funny. Because of the whole Korrasami relationship that ends up being at the end of this series. Spoiler alert, but then again, if you're watching this video, you probably already saw Korra. So anyway, here we have two chicks sitting in a hot spring 5 feet apart because they're not gay. And yeah, that's just kind of it. It was just a cute little reference, so I decided to pay homage to it. Korra, the infamous sequel to Last Airbender. Yes. Last Airbender is considered, rightly so, to be one of the greatest animated series to be ever made on television. And for good reason. It was incredibly well constructed. It's got great characters, a great story. It takes that timeless classic of the hero's journey and really puts its own spin on it. It creates a world that we as an audience love to engage with. We love to imagine ourselves like, how cool would it be to be a firebender? How cool would it be to throw rocks at each other with our mind powers? And yeah, it was that perfect storm. And then of course it had to be followed up. And I remember when Korra was first announced. I remember going online to all these different forums, including 4chan, that lovable place. How it was amazing news that the team that made Avatar were going to make a sequel Avatar series about the next Avatar after Aang. And it was going to be super cool, and it was going to take place in like a faux 1920s style, so you could have like steampunk and cars and jazz music. And it got poisoned by the H word, being hype. Yes, hype is a fickle friend. It is a double-edged sword. You see, when you hype something, you build expectation, and expectation can become overwhelming, especially when the preceding thingy, that being Last Airbender itself, is so great. I don't think, if everything were perfect and aligned perfectly, even with all of that perfect alignment, that Korra could ever live up to Last Airbender. And the reason why I believe that is because there was no expectation when Last Airbender first came out. When it first came out, it was just another cartoon. When it first aired, I was quite young, but I remember thinking like, oh, that's cool. It's a cartoon about kung fu, and you can shoot magical elements out of your fists when you do kung fu. So there really wasn't a build for it to be something amazing. And then, of course, it became amazing. It was allowed to grow organically into something incredible. And whenever you do that, and you have to follow that up, there's just no way there's really no way to do that. And I think the best explanation that I've ever seen about this probably has to come from Yahtzee Croshaw. Yahtzee Croshaw being the infamous fast-talking British video game critic. And he had this to say about Portal and Portal 2.
Alright, let's skip to the end. Is Portal 2 good? Yes. Is it better than Portal 1? No. What you need to understand is that nobody expected Portal 1 to explode the way it did. Valve released it essentially as a stocking stuffer to mollify us into not coming around and breaking their windows. It was all of 2 hours long and developed by a small team within the company who had to cut corners like it was crunch time at the Circle Factory. And what I liked most about it was that it was as tight as a walnut corset. Not an inch of it was wasted. Everything was there that needed to be there for the game to work, and the humour was the icing on the French fancy.
So with that quote, we can see that Avatar kind of has the same problem, in that Avatar had no leading expectations. Last Airbender specifically. And so because of that, now that Korra had to follow a huge act, it was never going to be able to. Even if Korra was objectively better, like it had better characters and it had better construction, I don't think it would have seemed to the audience to be better. I don't think it would have been possible because Avatar was such a slam dunk hit. The only times I can ever remember a sequel exceeding the expectations of the previous work is in rare instances such as Aliens, the follow-up to the original Alien, and of course Godfather Part 2. Those two sequels, and in a way I think Terminator 2 Judgment Day, ironically enough, 2 of those 3 are James Cameron movies. So I guess just goes to show you how good that guy is. I mean, it did make Titanic and Avatar, which ended up being also slam dunk hits in their own right. But anyway, I think even then with Aliens, Terminator 2, and the third one that I can't remember, Godfather Part 2, is even in their own rights, the first time those first movies came out, they weren't nearly a slam dunk. And it was their sequels that made them into the franchises they are today. So the only way I could have seen Korra becoming as hype as Last Airbender is to us is if Last Airbender wasn't as hype. And then Korra made it hype. And then years down the line, people would see the other Avatar franchise, not James Cameron Avatar, obviously, but the other Avatar franchise as being amazing, is Korra would have been the one that gave it its name, not Last Airbender. Even despite all that, Korra does have its complaints. A lot of people did not like the direction it took. And I believe that it had a lot of factors going into it. I don't doubt that. And I do not deny that. However, I believe that Korra's greatest weakness was that it wasn't allowed to have cohesion. It wasn't allowed to have a full beginning, middle, and end. When the first season was announced, it was announced as a mini-series. Just one season with not even like a full 24 episode stint. It was like half of that. And at the time, the creators believed that that was all they were going to get. So season 1 of Korra is very much condensed. It's a condensed story. It's meant to be all they were given. And then all of a sudden, Nickelodeon says, hey, howdy, hey, let's give you some more season. And they're like, okay. And so season 2 came out, of course, and season 2 has my least favorite part of all the franchise, which is losing the past Avatar lives, which I'm still salty about. I'm never gonna, that wound is forever, man. Until they retcon it somehow, I will forever not be happy that they nerfed the Avatar. The Avatar no longer has access to all the previous lives. That's no bueno, no bueno. Ah! But anyway, then season 3 comes along, and season 3 is regarded to be the best season of Korra, and for good reason. It had a great villain, first of all. Zahir is amazing, and his little cult of the Red Lotus, and it had a great development for Bolin being treated like a joke all this time, and I feel like Bolin had a really nice upgrade this time around. And then of course season 4 came out, and then season 4 was a time skip, and the big thing about season 4 is that it ended on the will they won't they Korra-Sami relationship thing, which of course evolved into its own thing because there was the whole thing with Bryke, which is the nickname they give the two creators, together said that they wanted to make Korra-Sami more of a thing, but I guess Nickelodeon wouldn't have it, but there was also arguments saying they themselves were playing it safe, and they only said that Korra-Sami was a thing afterward. They were pulling a J.K. Rowling, so to speak. But I'm not going to go in on that because that's just another small factor that goes into kind of the overarching problem of Korra, which is you can point fingers every direction you want. But I think we can all agree that Korra wasn't really kind of given its fair shake. And that's kind of a bummer. And whosever fault it is, whether you want to point at the suits at Nickelodeon, or you want to point at Bryke, or you want to point at the overzealous fans going nuts, whoever you want to point them fingers, it ended up not being what it could have been, and that is kind of a shame. It's even more of a shame because you'd think that with the success of Avatar that, you know, they would have been able to be given the big fat, you know, here's a nice solid chunk where you can tell a full story. You can have full 3 seasons just like you did back with Last Airbender, but they weren't given that. There was the whole thing with like season 4, like the latter half of it wasn't even aired normally. It had to be aired online. And even before that, they were given a crummy time slot of like Friday night where like no kid really watches cartoons at that point. And a lot of meddling. I guess the longest story short of it is that there was a lot of things going against Korra that kind of didn't allow it to be what it could have been. As I'm talking, I realize what I'm doing is I'm saying I want more Last Airbender, but I don't want more Last Airbender. And unfortunately, what that is, as I'm dissecting my thought process, it's me hyping, right? It's me taking the hype of Last Airbender and forcing it upon Korra. Maybe Korra would have been better off if it had a more cohesive story, but then again, if they had a polished, separate pocket season like they did, where season 1 is its own thing, season 2, season 3, season 4 are their own thing, it could have been great. But of course, it's ever going to be compared to Last Airbender. Even I'm doing it subconsciously, and even consciously acknowledging it, I'm still doing it. Nobody sets out to make something bad. Nobody sets out to screw up their story. I'm not saying that Korra screwed up, like entirely. Yes, they did some things flawed, but you know, every show has its flaw. Even Last Airbender has its flaws. The problem is that we are seeing an unfortunate storm of having to follow up one of, if not the greatest cartoon of the modern era, like of the 21st century, basically. And the fact that their main distributor and producer, Nickelodeon, kind of pulled them around. So, you know what? Of all that being said, I'm still glad Korra got made, because I am glad we got to see bits and pieces of things that were actually kind of cool. I do like their setting. I do like, you know, what would Avatar look like in the future with all the, you know, the 1920 steampunk hoo-ha. I do like seeing a different Avatar. You know, I don't like the loss of the Avatar lives, which is a disappointment because I would have loved to see Korra interacting with not just Aang, but also Roku and Kyoshi. Like, how interesting would it have been to see the interaction between Korra and Kyoshi, for example? I actually don't think they would have totally got along, because on the surface level, it's like, oh, it's 2 tough girls. But, like, Kyoshi is a very different tough girl from Korra. First of all, she's a hell of a lot older, which means she's a hell of a lot more tempered. And, you know, I would have loved to see how those two would have butted heads, because I have no doubt they would have. But that's the rub, man. You know, like I said, I'm still glad it was made. I'm glad we got to experience something. Glad, in a funny roundabout way, we got Korrasami, so we can have all the memes, we can have all the artwork, if you know what I mean. And of course, gave me the opportunity to make fun of it through making an homage to a Vine. It's a crazy franchise, and in a way, I want to see more of it. I just hope they, I don't know, I hope they have a better shot at anything in the future. I guess there's the comics. I haven't read the comics, so maybe I'll do a video on that one day. But anyway, in the meantime, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Alrighty, people, you know what to do here. If you like what you see and want to see more, tickle the sacred buttons, bend them in every way. Go ahead and like that button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know what comes next. Also, go ahead and share the video. Share it, I command thee, because it's good for the channel, it's good for you, it's good for me, it's good for the people that you will share this to, because it shows them, I should say, that you have good taste. And of course, comment below. Please let me know your opinions. I know there are some people who love Korra more than they love Last Airbender, and if you do, tell me why. I want to hear your thoughts on Korra. Korra is a very fascinating, it seems like a very fascinating case study on who likes it and who doesn't, and for what reasons. And of course, if you wish to stalk me elsewhere on the interbutts, go ahead and hit up my social media links here on the screen, as well as that which I post down below in the intro video, where if you click on the intro video, you can go to my external links, and I do that for algorithm reasons, but that's the rubs on that one. And with all that said, I thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you all stick around, and until next time, deuces.